I'm about to do a comparison on two different mixers that I have here. On the left of your screen is my older Mackie board, the 1402 VLS Pro, and on the right side is the newer Behringer board, the Xenyx X1222USB. And I'm going to explain some of the similarities and some of the differences. As I said, this Mackie board is something I've had at least 10 years, probably closer to 12 or 13 years. But it's the 1402 VLZ Pro. As you can see, there are 6 mic input channels, and the last 4 channels over here are high impedance stereo input channels, so they have the left and rights up here for anything like that. And you can always just put something in the first input and it becomes a mono channel, so that works good too. Now, this was a really good board and I used it for a lot of years. It was in a rack until recently, and it did everything I needed to do. I probably, over a 10-year period, probably did 400 or 500 jobs with it, and it always worked. I never had any problem with it. So you say, well, why would you stop using it? Well, I didn't actually stop using it so much as I stopped hauling around the big rack that it was in. I had it in a big rolling rack with a lot of effects in the rack, and it was very heavy, and some of the clubs I started playing had stairs that you had to go up, and often I had to try and lug the whole case upstairs by myself. So I decided to get a second board for smaller gigs and use that and leave this board for any gigs where I needed more channels and more room for what we were doing. The first board I bought to sort of replace the Mackie in smaller gigs was this Soundcraft mixer. This Soundcraft mixer had 4 mic inputs and 4 stereo channels over here, similar to the Mackie, left and right stereo, and you can put something in the left input only and it becomes a mono channel. Now, the band I'm working with went from being a bigger band to being a duo with using computers and MIDI stuff. So this worked fine for us on smaller jobs where I only needed 4 or 5 inputs. And the Soundcraft was fine, it worked good, and it had something that was important to me. It had built-in effects, reverb, echo, delay rather, and it worked fine. But it didn't have enough inputs. I still needed at least 2 more inputs. So the next board I got was this Behringer board, the Xenyx X1222USB. This board has a lot of features on it that weren't available in the Mackie board when I got that years ago. For instance, this board has an EQ that you can use on either the mains or the monitors, and it also has a feature in the EQ where you push a button and it will identify any feedback and show you what range the feedback is in. The EQ will light wherever the feedback is happening, and you can adjust from there. This also has built-in effects that the Mackie didn't have, and you get 16 basic effects, and some of them are multi-effects, reverb and delay, for instance. And not only are they in there as standard, but you can change the effect and then edit it, and then push the button and it will save the effect that you just edited. Now, one thing is, it won't create a new number for the effect. It'll edit the effect that you are using, and it will memorize the new setting. But that's not really a problem, because if you ever want to go back to the original setting, you can just reset the whole effects here, and it will go back to the factory setup. Now this board, as you can see, has 6 mic inputs, and they're all phantom powered, 48 volt. And the first 4 channels of this mixer has its own compressors, 4 individual compressors. Now, it's a 1-knob compressor. You are just basically setting the level of compression with 1 knob. And I've seen some people comment that you really need a gate on the compressor to make it work right. Well, that would have been lovely if they put a gate on there, but they didn't, and I don't really find it to be a problem. I don't crank up the compression to begin with. I use it as at a lower level. This has a low cut filter for every one of the mic channels, and then 3-band EQ, and then you have your auxiliary send, which can be used for monitors, which is what I use it for, or another effect if you want. And it has an effects send and return, well, a send. And you can either use the internal effects, or if you don't particularly like them, you can use the in and out of this effects channel to use something else that you might have. Every channel has a mute switch on it, but one of the nice things is, over here with this red button here, you can mute all the channels just by pushing this button. So let's say you've got this all set up to exactly where you want it during the night, and all the mics are on, and you're going to take a break. You don't have to mute each channel or change anything. You just push this button. It mutes all the mic channels. It mutes all the channels. And over here where you have the standalone 2-track input for, let's say, running some music through the system, this is still active. So you're muting all these channels, and this channel is still active. So you can, if you're going to go play some music off an MP3 player or something while you're on break, this can stay on. All right. And now, as far as effects go, there's an effects send here. The effects send's rather up here. This is effects return. Okay, and this will set the master output of the effects, what's going out to the main system. And then above it, up here, is another knob to send as much of the effects you want to the monitor send. So it will drop it over into the monitor section. So you can put the same effects on your monitors or no effects on your monitors. The monitor output is here. This is the main monitor output. And, you know, I said that wrong. This is the main effects knob. This is the one that decides how much that goes into your main system. And this one over here decides how much effects go into your monitor system. And here's the monitor button here. Over here you have a headphone. There's a little headphone amp in here that you can use here. All these up here are pretty standard. In fact, comparing it to the Mackie, you can see how they cloned a lot of the stuff on the Mackie. And it's right. This especially is so close to what the Mackie board has. Two of the features on this board that I don't use because I have no use for them. One of them here is called the XPQ to main, and it's a surround sound kind of thing. Now, as I said, I don't use it, so I don't mix in stereo when I play clubs. So the idea of having some kind of surround sound control doesn't do anything for me. Also in here, there is a button here somewhere that allows you to do, here it is, voice canceller. And what that is, it's like the old Thompson vocal eliminator, which will take a signal and anything that's common to the left and right channels of a recording, it'll sort of attenuate them, bring them down. And usually what's in the middle of any recording and is common to both left and right channels, it's the vocal. So it's sort of a vocal eliminator. But once again, I don't know how well it works because I have no use for it, and I've never tried to use it. As far as overall sound goes, the Behringer's a little bit quieter than the Mackie. That probably has to do with the improvement in IC chips and whatnot. In the years since I bought the Mackie, they've been improved. So Behringer's taken advantage of some newer technology to make the board quieter. And it is very quiet. When I hook it up and I go over to the PA speaker and listen to it, I don't hear any hiss or hum or anything. And I always have to get my partner to talk into the microphone just to make sure that it's even on. So for me, it's very, very quiet. So one more thing to talk about, prices. Now, the Behringer board and the Mackie board, you can see how similar in layout and everything they are. They're really, it's obvious that the Behringer is a clone of, if not this Mackie board, one very similar to it. As I said, I bought this about 10 years ago, and I'm sure I've played, I would say, more than 400 jobs with it, easily. And I paid about $400 to maybe $450 for this board when I first bought it. And it's worked out fine. This Soundcraft mixer was very inexpensive. It was worth just taking a chance on, and I used it. I've used it on a number of jobs, so it paid for itself very quickly. The only problem really with it is these 4 stereo channels have just volume, pan, and effect send. There's no pad for the channel, so you can't adjust the incoming signal, and there's no EQ. So it is what it is, but the reverbs and the delays in it are pretty nice. And for $130, what do you want? This Behringer board was $229.99 at Musician's Friend. I've had it 7 months now, and I just got out my book and counted. We've played 32 jobs in the past 7 months using this board. I've never had a problem with it. It still works fine. You'll hear a lot of stories about Behringer products. People will say they're cheaply made, they fall apart, they don't work. All I can tell you is I've been using some Behringer products for a lot of years, and I have not had a problem with any of them. But that's been my experience. So it's up to you to decide. But thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, post them below, and I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. And subscribe to my channel because I've got some new guitars coming that I want to tell you about. Thanks.